and welcome to episode 34 of the Dunks Movie Corner or Dunks Movie Corner podcast. Whatever you want to call it. This is that. This is episode, like I said, 34. If you are new, welcome. If you're not new, welcome back. If you are new, well, this is a weekly little recap of what I watched in a week, either TV, movie, limited, series, all that jazz. And as I say every episode, this is a companion podcast to the Movie Bros, which is a more conversational piece that I do with my brother Hayden. We pick a movie, we watch that movie, we kind of discuss and ramble and have a nice conversation about it. So if you want something that's not just me rambling for about 10 to 15 minutes, I'd say check that out. Both this podcast and the Movie Bros should be on Spotify, YouTube now, and I think I've done the technical side correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong, obviously, for Apple Music and Amazon, if that's how you listen to podcasts. Both of them are also on Instagram. This is at Dunks Movie Corner Pod, and the Movie Bros is at the movie_bros. Otherwise, that's more or less a really quick recap of what this is and what you should be expecting from this, or if you want to look for something else, look for something else. But I started my week, well, at least I think I ended the week last talking about Red Planet with Val Kilmer. So I started this week with the 2019 The Lighthouse. This is going to be the next episode of the Movie Bros, so I don't want to talk too much about it. It is an experience. If you have a chance to watch this, I would say check it out. It's on HBO Max. It is, I wouldn't call it horror, I wouldn't call it a comedy drama. I mean, it is a, yeah, I don't really want to say too much. There is two cast members. It is just William Dafoe and Robert Pattinson as lighthouse keepers, and them just slowly losing their shit. Being stuck on this small little rock forever with just the two of them, and I think it's the late 1800s or early 1900s. The subtitles are totally worth it because you pick up so much of the crazy stuff that William Dafoe says in his old timey Captain Ahab vibe. It's really wonderful. I will talk about this a lot more this coming week on the Movie Bros, but just so you know, that's what I started this week with. And I rate all of the movies that I watch. I use a app called Letterboxd. This is where you can rate, review, keep track of what you watch. You can see what other people. It's like a social media, but it's really just only about movies and nothing else. So it's out of 5 stars, including half stars. So The Lighthouse, I would call this a 4 out of 5, maybe 4.5. It's just a wild time. From there, I rewatched the 2024 Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. The reason why I rewatched this is because the first time was when it first came out, and I think Hayden and I referenced this a little bit on our last episode of the Movie Bros, but I think it got a bad rap. I think the marketing was not great because people expected it to just be just like Mad Max Fury Road, which is basically a perfect movie, the perfect action adventure movie, I would say, because it's basically non-stop the entire time. But this is in the same world, but it is definitely not the same movie. And they waited basically a decade to make it, even though it's a prequel to the one they first made. I feel like if they had planned this correctly, made and released Mad Max Fury Road, and then literally only a year later released Furiosa, because then they also had a prequel about Mad Max before Fury Road. They both had their own origin story. I think back to back to back, 1 year, 1 year, 1 year would have been perfect, and you'd actually have the interest to kept up with it. Because now I think Tom Hardy, who played Max, is just too old, which is really unfortunate. Because I like him in the role a lot, and I like George Miller, the director. So I don't really know what they're. I hope they don't wait another decade just to make that, but we'll see. So either way, I do think this got a bad rap. I do think it's actually pretty good. I would give it a solid 4 out of 5. Visually, very stunning. The story is all right, and Chris Hemsworth as a kind of he's the bad guy, but he's also not a very competent bad guy. It's a weird combination. He's fun and he's not Thor, even though he's built like fucking Thor. He's jacked and huge. Yeah, so I'd say check that out. That's also, I believe, on Max. From there, this has been on my watch list forever, and it finally because it's not really available anywhere readily. But I picked it up at the local library branch. Which again, if you don't use your local library, like, what a fantastic resource! Just as like a side ramble, but like, hey, any kind of physical book, online reading, movie, CD. They don't have records; they're not that like vintagey. But and the amount of other like resources that, like, if you need to go use a computer and you don't own a computer or a printer, a lot of people don't own printers anymore. And there's an app that's connected to my local library system where you can get free tickets for like different museums around the area, which is super fucking cool. Just saying, if you don't use your library, you should. Either way, this was Boyhood. This is Richard Linklater, Ethan Hawke, Patricia Arquette, who won an Oscar for this. It is almost 3 hours, and it's basically the story of a boy growing up. And what Richard Linklater is really known for is not having a definitive plot. It's just like, hey, I'm trying to observe like just human life. And it's cool because again, it's the same actors and the same boy who they first start like doing the movie when he's really young, like 3 or 4, and then every couple of years they check back in and film more footage. So the whole movie spans from like he's like 4 to like 21, and obviously Patricia Arquette and Ethan Hawke are his parents, and they age obviously because they are coming back to film. So it's a really cool project. I'm really glad I saw it. There is some pretty. I think I'm just seeing things more personally, but like just the different relationships that this boy has with both his own father, who his parents split up when he's really young, and then all the different like stepfathers that kind of try to step in along the way with Patricia Arquette, and just him navigate. It makes me both appreciate my own parents and how tough that situation is to just have kids in general, especially. I mean, 20 some odd years ago, yeah, that's one thing, but like trying to have a kid, like having a kid now, not just financially, but just all the other. It just, I don't know, it just blows my mind that we are somehow still surviving as a human race when the things you need to do to have a kid and have one that's not like totally fucked up, and the amount you need to be around for that kid, but also you need to be able to go and provide for that. Like the amount, it's just it stresses me out. I'll admit that, and I don't know. I have many thoughts in the matter that may not come to fruition today. But either way, that was Boyhood. It's really, really good. It is long, so you should be aware of that. It's almost 3 hours. And if you either like this and you want something else, but Richard Linklater, the director, also did Dazed and Confused. He did Before Sunset, Before Midnight, Before Sunrise. He did School of Rock, surprisingly, because School of Rock is fantastic. If you look at his movie, he kind of has a trend of just like these, oh, we're just going to put 2 people in a room and let them just have a conversation. And maybe the conversation is interesting, maybe it's not, but at least it's like, this is the closest thing to real life. His writing is really, and his directing is like, oh, this is just like a snapshot of existence, which I really appreciate. So that was probably a 4, maybe 4.5 out of 5. It's weird. It's the same rating as something like Furiosa, but they are so incredibly different. Which is, I'm glad that movies have the ability as a medium to both elicit so many different responses, and you can go so many different ways with it and still have the same quality, if that makes any kind of sense. From there, I put this on as I was meal prepping. I watched Carry On. This is the Netflix 2024 Taron Egerton, Jason Bateman, where Jason Bateman is like a terrorist that's trying to get Taron Egerton to, as a TSA officer, to let certain bags through. It was all right. Boy, do I feel like Taron Egerton just kind of fell off the map a little bit. Like, he's done some actually really cool projects that I feel like I've maybe even talked about this before in this podcast. But I mean, he became really big with Kingsman, The Secret Service, and then The Golden Circle, I think was the sequel. And he's done a couple things that I haven't seen that I want to see, like Tetris. He did Eddie the Eagle, which was a lot. He seems just like a fun guy. But I don't know. I feel like he just kind of like sort of blended into the background. He hasn't really been like the guy that I thought he might be like the next James Bond or something like that. Whereas this is also really fun to see Jason Bateman He's been fantastic in so many different things, both comedies, dramas. But what was cool about this is him playing a bad guy, like a terrorist in an airport, which was kind of a fun thing. No, the movie itself, if you kind of, I don't know, if you look at it objectively, the movie's not very good. Some of the acting, some of the like staging and the lighting, maybe that's just airport lighting, but it was not. It was not interesting to watch. So yes, I would call this probably like a 3 out of 5. No, it's not bad, but I wouldn't be like, oh, you guys got to check this out. And I feel like that was maybe the general consensus even once it came out. Because looking at Letterboxd, I gave this a 3 out of 5, and that is also the general consensus of everyone. Like most people, the average score is a 3, not a 3.5, not a 2.5. Like it's right in the middle. So if you're looking for something safe to watch, kind of a middle of the road, you're not going to be disappointed, but you're also probably not going to love it. You can also check that out. From there, folks, I watched the 2006 The Holiday. This has also not been on my watch list, but it's kind of been on my radar for a long time because I'm like, okay, these are some big names like Cameron Diaz, Kate Winslet, Jude Law, Jack Black, Rufus Sewell. You'd recognize him. It gave me very similar vibes, at least from trailers and stuff, as Love Actually, which I just recently rewatched, and I'm sure you probably listened to that episode. I think that was 2 or 3 episodes ago. Either way, so I was like, okay, I'm going to check this out. Basically, Cameron Diaz and Kate Winslet, one's American, one's British, they switched places for the holidays. So Cameron Diaz ends up falling in love with Jude Law, and Kate Winslet ends up falling in love with Jack Black. And it was actually, like, pretty good. The culmination, like the last, maybe like the third act, not as good. I don't know. Especially, I don't love Cameron Diaz. Kate Winslet's fantastic. Jack Black, I like him, but he's playing a Jack Black character in kind of and to a certain degree, I think that character's fun. The kind of like ridiculous, kooky guy that makes you laugh, but then you actually fall in love with him. But it's every movie, and I would prefer that over like The Rock playing The Rock in every fucking movie, but I don't know, I feel like it didn't give me as much. And yes, to a certain degree, Jude Law is playing the like suave, cozy British guy that he could play in multiple movies. It's still enjoyable. I would say there's a subplot of Kate Winslet befriending Eli Walsh, who is like a real person. They cast him as him, and she befriends him when she moves, switches places to live in L.A. And it's actually really sweet. I like that portion of the movie quite a bit. But yeah, I don't know. I would. It's not definitely my favorite either holiday movie or romance movie. Like it's a 3, maybe a 3.5 if I'm being generous. Again, watching more and more of these kind of movies, I really think I might find myself like a cool black turtleneck, just like all these handsome dudes are wearing. Because again, I don't want to be with them, but I do want to be like them. Because like, I feel like I could pull that shit off. Like the what's it called? The black turtleneck with like a brown like overcoat or something. Looks suave as hell. Maybe then Kate Winslet will take an interest in me. You never know. Either way, that was The Holiday. That's the last movie I watched this week, and maybe to mush up into one, I'm still continuously watching, what's it called? Batman the Animated Series, which again, I watch like one episode a day. They're like 20 minutes. So again, some of them are very iconic, like This Is Batman. The music, even the animation for it being from the 90s, it's very fun. Some of them are a little too kooky for me to really pay any interest in. And then I'm also been slowly binging through because I watched the episode and actually really enjoyed it, but I'm kind of falling off interest as I go. Nobody Wants This. This is a Netflix original. This is Adam Brody, not Adrian Brody, his brother. And what's her name? Kristen Bell, excuse me. It's her not being Jewish and him being a rabbi and them falling for each other, and it's them like navigating that, which is something I had no experience with, or I have no idea a lot of the like backgrounds for Jewish like traditions and dating and all that kind of stuff. But it's been interesting. They have great chemistry. I mean, I'm gonna finish it. I don't know if I'm gonna be like, oh, this is great, because I think it's a 8 or 10 episode limited series, and each episode is like 30, 40 minutes. So I'm most of the way through that. I think that's roughly everything I watched this week. That's like what, 5 movies and a couple of different kind of series throughout the week. I will say this is the time of year where it doesn't always happen every year, but my living situation is changing, where I'm having to go tour apartments and houses, and the economy and the market just stress me the fuck out, because when I look at like neighborhoods that I used to live in, like in the city when I first moved into the city like 6, 7 years ago, and literally almost the exact same apartment buildings have gone up over 100%. Like moved in when I first moved into Seattle, which is generally where I'm at, by the way. Like a 1 bedroom was around $1,000, and now like again, same area, roughly the same buildings, same square footage, everything is the same. And yes, I know it's a certain amount of inflation, but like everything doesn't inflate at the same rate, which is fucking stupid. Like the same apartments are like $2,300, which is insane. Like my pay has not been raised by that much. Literally anything else has not. Like the housing is ridiculous. As much as I really miss living in the city, I'm trying to find maybe something on the outskirts of either South or North Seattle, while it still makes sense for commute to 2 different jobs, because yeah, we now live in a time where more people work multiple part-time jobs than one full-time job, because full-time jobs seems like they never actually want to hire you. Not to be in a gloomy, bloomy kind of person, but goddamn. Either way, yeah, that is more or less what I watched. That was episode 34 of Dunk's Movie Corner. Again, check out this podcast once a week, usually Tuesdays is when I record, edit, and post, because this one I don't edit that much because it's just me rambling. The Movie Bros is recorded on Wednesdays, posted on Sundays, because there's actually a fair bit of editing that has to happen. So I'd say check out that. If you have any comments, suggestions on things I should be watching or shouldn't be watching or anything like that, let me know. Otherwise, hang in there, folks, until the next rant.